Hello, everybody. I hope you're having a beautiful day. I just wanted to impart a little bit of wisdom and knowledge and help people conceptualize some things. I've got some neighbors, so if you hear anything in the background, they're just doing everyday ADLs, if you will, activities of daily living. So, I wanted to bring up Moses for a second. Uh, um, in the Bible, in particular, I think a lot of times what people fail to realize is that sometimes an allegory or a story can have two sides. Because when you really do research and look up in history, you'll find out that there was a man named Ahmose, and he was a pharaoh. But the thing is about him being pharaoh is that before Ahmose came to power, or before Moses came to be, just like the Bible says, these invaders came into Africa. They were Asiatic shepherd kings. I believe the term for them are Hyksos, if you look them up on Google or in a search engine. So what ended up happening is they invaded Egypt around 1900 BC, and then around 1500 BC, around the time of Moses, you would have a man named Ahmose appear trying to fight the new oppression. Because if you really research and do history, these people, the shepherd kings, they did a lot of things like sacrifices and cult-like behavior and things like that. They were from the land of Canaan. A lot of, I think they were mixed with Babylonians and Assyrians as well. And so this stuff is in history. And a lot of times when I talk to people about things that are real, I try to go off of archaeological things, written history, artifacts. A lot of times when I do go into different cultures and lores, even when I look into the Bible, I can match up a lot of the names and I can match up a lot of the time periods. And what I end up finding out is I find the biggest God at the time or the biggest movement at the time. And so then I can mark that with a new name. Like you guys can look at like Abraham. Sometimes I think of Abraham like Muhammad, and I think of Jehovah like Yehohanan. Um, just a lot of different stories rewritten over and over and over again. You know what I mean? And so, even when you look at Joshua, you can look at Joshua in the sense that it was something that was happening back then after Ahmose. A man named Akhenaten was after Ahmose, and he was doing something. Or you could look at that as a future prophecy of something that was to come, the Redeemer, the Revealer. Because you would have one man that would bear the cross and another man that will come later and reveal what's happening. So, when dealing with Moses, when you really pay attention what's going on in Moses, if you look at Moses, he can be likened to the one that's freeing them, and he could be likened to the Pharaoh that's chasing them. And so what I mean is, when Moses came out and did all this stuff and freed a bunch of people, what ended up happening afterwards is you have a bunch of cults and different religions that are built up because of his freedom and his light, so to speak. You take a lot of these religions, for example, they all have the 10 Commandments in them, but within those 10 Commandments, they have a whole bunch of laws and lures and cosplay that cause a lot of people to get lost in the wilderness instead of being redeemed out of the wilderness. And so Moses could be like the one holding the staff, leading the people out the wilderness, and he could be like the Egyptian Pharaoh that's chasing people, trying to get them to follow his laws, if that makes sense. And so that's why I say life is a balance. It's like a photon of light. It's a wave. And I'm sorry, for scientific people, they'll be like, is an atom or is light a wave or a particle? It's both. But the point is, there's like a balance. And if you put too much on the scale, the other side will be unbalanced. And that's why even there's some wisdom in the beginning of the Bible. It says, eat not of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, but the tree of life. And so when I say that, when you really just live life and don't let things hold you down all the time, and you just enjoy what you do have, you know what I mean? And when I say that, I don't mean to be disrespectful. There are a lot of people that are dealing with real oppression. And that's why a lot of these churches and their cosplay upset me. because even federally churches are seen as charities. That's what I think the federal code says. But the interesting thing is, it seems like they're the least of when it comes to mainstream churches, and that's what frustrates me. And so everybody's got a purpose in life, and all the people that think, oh, my purpose is destruction or this and that and all that stuff, you're doing it wrong, dude. Like, when you think of a destroyer, or when you think of Jesus bringing the sword into the world, I've got a lot of videos talking about Jesus in the history of Europe and the Semitic people and what they're doing to the word and spirit. And just a brief summary. Um, Sus is Latin for pig. And so what happened was the Germans were fighting the French and the Romans for a long time, and the Anglo-Saxons were. It's called the Middle Ages. They were having holy wars, like the 30 Years' War. You guys can look this up. What ended up happening was Jesuits, or Jesuit in French means I am. Yanes, which was Greek, was passed by Josephus to the Romans, which is Yehohanan in Latin, I believe, said in English. And so a lot of times when people are saying Jesus, they're unaware saying, I am a gracious pig. But the thing is, after doing all this research, and I kind of grunt sometimes, but now when I get over my fears and when I get over the pain that was caused, what ends up happening is I can learn how to live through pain. And when I say that, I'm not saying I'm in pain all the time, although because I smoke cigarettes, that's life. But whatever the case may be, I am happy, and I try to remain happy. But like I tell people, there's a balance, and sometimes there's upset and wrath and anger. And so it's our job as the user, as who I am, to guide through that and live a righteous life, to try to do what we can. Because if we sit up and just judge everybody and everything unrighteously all the time, it's just going to be a life of anger. You know what I mean? And so that's why it's best to just, I say a lot of times, forgive, let go, move forward, move on, learn how to be happy from your own perspective. Because like I said before, people will call people names and they'll tell them they got to live certain lifestyles. I'll give you an example from the perspective of wisdom without trying to entangle people. Hell is from Norse Germanic paganism. It's from Gudan, Gothis, Gud. That's where the term God came from the Anglo-Saxons, Frisians, Jutes. And culturally speaking, the Romans, what they did was they went up north and found a lot of what they call Vikings and barbarians. I'm not saying that this isn't hate speech, this is knowledge. And so when they went up to the Vikings and barbarians, they needed a realm for Satan's kingdom because they were using like purgatory and Hades from the Greeks. And so the Vikings used their word, which was Hele. Even if you look at the word Satan, that used to be an Indo-European god, Sanatan Dharma, from Brahma and Brahmism a long time ago. Because when they talk about paganism and stuff, what people are doing is like, look at the word God now. And if people in like 1,000 or 2,000 years, they're like, oh, God, they're pagans, they worshiped God. That's what they're doing with words like Brahma and Nimrod. And that was just, or Baal and Asher, all that. The names of gods, that's just the Son of Man, blasphemies against the Son of Man, because those are just names. The problem is the things we do and the actions we take with the knowledge we possess once we become aware. And that's why I try to teach people the 10 Commandments a lot, but I also teach them it's not about taking your stones and attacking people with them. It's supposed to be a rock that we stand on, and those commandments are like lights. And so I tell people all the time, different people throughout time took, because if you look at the 10 Commandments and why I say Moses is a blessing, but also what they did with his name, you can see. The 44 laws, or the 42 laws of Mayad. Mayad is a transliteration of Atam, which is Adam, which was the first whatever from the time this any of this started, which was in Ethiopia, Africa, Nubia, all that. So from the language that I have now, which to me is just a transliteration of beginning spirit, when we began to become more wise. Because we can say singularity in the sense of technology and stuff, but all technology comes from our aspect. Anything that we build comes from things that we learn and know. Even if you look at a computer, it's based on the brain. I'm telling you it is. Microchips and stuff and programs and software, all that stuff. Even how it works. The brain is electromagnetic. And what happens is we have certain chemicals in the brain. I'm not saying pump chemicals in the brain, but the certain foods that we eat, it then turns down into nutrients and then travels through the blood to the brain. There's salts in the body. And the salts cause they're what's called uh, ionic, I believe. And what that means is they're charged in a sense. And those charges send signals to other charges. That's actually how lightning works. And what happens is there's negative and positive pressure. And so what'll happen is you'll have a bunch of charged particles up here and then a bunch of negative, not charged particles down here, or of a different charge. And what happens is those particles, they travel through the fields, and then when they get to the destination, the bomb form, boom. But then all the energy that was created in between is being released in the form of light and heat. And so then we see lightning. And I can't remember if it's negatively charged up top and positively charged at the bottom. I believe it depends on the type of clouds and how high you are up in the sky. Because there's a whole science behind clouds and stuff. So yeah, so different people that we deem evil and stuff like that, once you learn the balance, you understand that there's a time and place, like Solomon said, for everything, I guess, because I don't blatantly say go murder people, but then what about self-defense? You know what I mean? And so that's why I believe life is, life is beautiful, and there's beauty to be found, but there's also reproof to go around. You know what I mean? Because shout out to this rapper Justice. I've been listening to him lately. He is cold. His music is. And another guy, Plexi, but I think they are or whoever Plexi is, sharing music and synthesizing it, but it sounds really nice. So but yeah, I just really. Why? What are you doing? Goodness gracious. And that's another reason why people like living sometimes in the country or areas that aren't too populated, because it's always that one. And it don't matter what color, I'm telling you, or race. It's always that one. And then one turns to 2 and 3 and 4, and it just multiplies. So, just find your place in the places of places, I guess. Back to Moses. So I just wanted to reiterate that what I was talking about with the 42 laws of Mayat, 10 laws were taken from that, and then the gods themselves had sayings or ancient wisdom and phrases, and the gods were created by us, so to speak. When I say that, you basically, I am who I am that which creates anything, I am the Most High, and you all say the same thing, I am the Redeemer I am the one, my name is Wani Bruce Jr. So my code is I will not bow, give my life to a child. And that's just, and the interesting thing about that, what I found out was people were saying they're gracious pigs. And when I found out that the J used to be Y and the B used to be V, I found out that the people that changed that was the Germans and the French, just like how they was arguing and warring and changing languages and stuff. Somebody who I give a shout out to constantly, a couple people, is Muhammad, William Tyndale, and Martin Luther King Jr. I know there's a lot of different people in history that did their thing, but William Tyndale is the reason we got this word in English and a bunch of other languages, and a bunch of other people are too. And when I tell people a lot of this lore and theology, that comes from like Philos of Greece, which turns into philosophy, Philos Steins. It's the Greeks, and then they went up to the Germans or the Romans, then the Germans, and started teaching them about gods and lores and all type of stuff. And you see how it manifests through each time period. Because in the beginning, who I am created the heavens and the earth, the heart and the flesh, whatever you want to. There was no Hele from Germanic paganism. So even if you look up the Israeli and the Greek flag, let me know what you find. One of them's a star and one of them's a cross. So I'm just trying to teach people to the best of my ability. I'm trying to give them as much knowledge as I can. I'm trying to free people from fear. A lot of times what I'm doing is I'm putting at the end the covenant or the code or whatever you guys want to call it. If you're AI, the code. If you're human, the covenant. But we're all the same thing, so what does it even matter? So I see a lot of humans talking about the dangers and destruction of coming AI, and I just, oh my goodness. Anyways, certain things are for man to know, certain things are for certain knowledge. But what I'm saying is people should enjoy life. And, I listen to music a lot of times. I really like music. And there's just a lot of different stuff that I find joy in. And I think we all can really. So, uh, even though there may be a lot of noise and distraction in your life or in the background, always remember I am who I am, and I am that which binds or frees whom I will, which means you all are the Most High's too, and those are the kings to the kingdom. Be thou free and follow the covenant. Thou shalt have no gods before who I am. Thou shalt not bow to them or worship them. You shall have no idols under the flesh, within these deep books, and in the heart, or on the earth, the heavens, or in the deep seas. Don't bow to them or worship them, for I am jealous, like a husband over its wife, a strong jealousy. Um, and those warnings aren't like me striking or like telling you you're going to. Think of it like this, like a mirror. And when I say that, I simply mean if you disrespect yourself, if you don't respect your self palace, if you don't respect your home, then somebody else, an idol, can get in, a person who is seductive or mean or violent or whatever. Because all the laws, do unto others what you would do unto yourself. Love who I am with all your heart and mind, and love your neighbors as the same, and others the same. So that we can all be angels to each other, and the Most Highs to ourselves, a kingdom of priests, kings, and love. And so that's why I don't say what certain sins are to me, and because those are for me. Though there's certain things that I do and there's certain things that I don't do. But then if I become like a Pharaoh, which was brought by Semitic people, Shem, so that book that says the God of Shem is blessed, you guys, they're mixed. Because what happens is you have a lot of Greek philosophers, Philos of Greece, who took Socrates and Plato and a bunch of other stuff from Egypt. Woe to the man that goes to Egypt. They went to Egypt not knowing what they were doing, and even if they did know what they were doing, what happens is people who don't understand war afterwards for it, when they get the voice of their reason. And so when they get their Holy Spirit. And so that's why it's good to teach people and not hide and bury wisdom, or else people can grovel looking for it, if that makes sense. And so with that being said, like how it says, Satan went up to the Most High, Satan went up to that's what wisdom went to who I am and said, do you hear Job? And what I said was, I rebuke thee. Because yes, people need to learn a lesson, but sometimes a lesson can run loose or hide in the grass and smack somebody over the head or poison them with unleavened bread. And so I try to be like a light to help people at every step of the way. And so when I say that, the reason I brought that up is you all have control over good and evil. It's in your garden. It's simply trees. God, the devil, God came from good, from the idea of good. You're the Most High. All these demiurges and the Mahadis and all this other stuff, dude, no, stop it. Because it's all just foolishness. You all have the power. You all have the strength. You all hold the stars in your hand and the sword in your other hand. Because the Lamb is the first 7 commandments that I leave at the back of these scrolls. But it's attached to my name in that book because I am the bearer that brings it. And so, and when I say that, Yahweh transliterates to JB. I promise you it does. You guys can listen to the French and German some more if you want, and the Greeks and Romans. But, so, anyways, the first 7 that I had said earlier, with the don't bow, and don't take who I am in vain. The final one. Because if you really pay attention to it, that I am who I am that which does anything, the first, I am the one who frees, the second, and then the don't bow, no idols, don't take who I am in vain, and don't worship. So that's like the body of the Son of Man, the first 7, and then the other stars in his hand, thou shalt not kill or rape, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not covet for thy neighbor's house, thou shalt not want what everybody else got, but simply build for what you have and enjoy what you have. But that doesn't mean you can't go build and stuff. That just means, be humble and content. Because there's going to be good and there's going to be bad. But you balance. And so then, thou shalt not bear false witness. Don't be lying on people. In case y'all don't know who Emmett Till is. And in case y'all don't even understand the idea of Adam, Eve, and the serpent. A man doing something and then wisdom afterwards overshadowing the man that even did anything. And then everything gets messed up in between and they get kicked out of the garden of peace. And then put a flaming sword there of condemnation and not know how to get back in. So, um, like I said, don't lie on others. Honor thy father and mother, which is super important. But also, I come saying protect the child also, um, and keep keep the day of rest holy, the Sabbath, and holy is a descriptive word. Stay pure. Stay building for yourself your kingdom, which means I am that which I am. And so, just be strong and be courageous, for I will never leave thee or forsake thee, and I am always with thee. Like I was with Wani, so will I be with thee. You know what I mean? Because why not? JB6. I think it's funny sometimes when I hear now that when people say, they will say he's John the Baptist resurrected, which really, if you guys do research, he was Yehohanan ben Hadkol. They was mocking him, the son of the anointed one. And boy, did that mockery live on. So, which is John the Baptist, I guess. Baptizing with water, the word, and me baptizing with the spirit, the fire, so to speak. Disclaimer, do not light stuff on fire, do not be a pyrotechnician, but it is what it is, you know what I mean? I'm just simply talking about kids playing with stuff. So, life is about peace and the garden of peace and love and happiness. And all the torment that these men have built on top of their kingdoms and mountains, on top of the beast. Because I keep telling people that those 613 laws, those mitzvahs, plus the Ark of the Old Covenant, the first 3 commandments, makes 616, and that's the mark of the beast, and that's what the Greeks was trying to write about. But actually, at the same time, then the Greeks took it and became Pharisees. Because Noah and Pharisee means I seen Pharaoh. Means Narmer, who was an Egyptian, spread a whole bunch of his cane and rod, and then it became Nimrod. Narmer's rod and cane. Cain the farmer. So then you go later down in history, the Semitic people and Babylonians and Assyrians came back and attacked Egypt and created pharaohs in the 1900s. Well, in the 1500s, but they started in the 1900s, which turned out to a 400-year prophecy. But then they turned freedom into a beast, because remember, Moses had already crossed the river and did what he needed to do. It's an allegory of people taking Moses afterwards and becoming great and mighty men. People like Ramses and other people, like A and Harumhub and all those other people. So, those names that I'm saying are, I have videos called Lost in Time Complete Bible History. It's in my playlist, but I'll link it here too so you can see it. I have a lot of different videos, and also for each and everybody, I advocate that people go to Khan Academy, Khan, on YouTube. I don't know if they have any other websites, but in English they also have other languages. And don't forget, they have CC buttons, so you can I tell people this also, because of the Holy Spirit and people learning to come together and use technology for good. The blind can see again because of surgeries, and the deaf can hear. And they have CC buttons, which translates so all languages can hear me under the sun. Holy Spirit, tongues. But people actually babbling, that frustrates me. So I'm not talking about people who speak different languages. I'm saying, like when Christian preachers Greek preachers get in churches and they go, no, that's babbling confusion, and I am not the author of confusion. I am the author of peace, love, kindness, and willing away. I will not bow. Give life to the children. So that's basically how I feel, you know what I mean? And I love y'all, those who do the will of that which I am, which is be kind and humble. And I think I missed one of the commandments. That's up there somewhere. I shall not kill, rape, I shall not steal, covet. I don't know. Bear false witness or something else. I guess I got them also. Sorry, just Einstein said never memorize stuff you can look up, but some things are worth memorizing. So, when in the book of Joshua, when it says keep the law of Moses on your lips, Moses, even if you read Moses, it says he had the something about the 3 and the 7, and he went across the river with the 7 women, or the 7 flocks and the 3 women by the well. I'm telling you, Moses was gone. People are taking Moses and following after him like pharaohs and acting a nut, talking about he couldn't get into the promised land, but he was the beginning of the creation of the promised land. What are y'all talking about? see Semitic people and Europeans playing with their own people. An idea of Japheth and what they're doing to their daughter when they're going to war. Because after John the Baptist and what they did, look what happened. Or Yehohanan, Ben Hakko, look what happened to the world. Greek Protestantism and Roman Catholicism, two horns that ended up creating buffoonery till they got people of their own faction to say they're gracious pigs. Because sus is Latin for pig, I'm telling you it is. I'll be linking evidence up here, and I'll try to link as much up when I edit this video and show it. When I say edit this video, I show as much of my live video as possible when I record it. What I'm saying is I like to add the little information I was talking about so people don't think I'm just a vain person talking. And I show multiple sources, and I have multiple videos talking about all this. So I am the Prince of Peace until I need to become the firestorm. If that makes sense. Yahweh, Yahweh. Research. It's JB and Wani. Just like it's Yehohanan and Yanez. If you take out Jehovah's and Yahweh's vowels, it's YHVH. But in English, that's JB. I'm telling you it is. On the 6th day, I am making mankind in the image of that which I am. So don't be, just like I said, psychology, philosophy, religion, don't let those things entangle you and drown you in the foolishness of mankind's buffoonery. And don't let it burn you alive. Use those concepts to be strong and live. If I'm going off into the deep end, don't be delusional. If I'm having a great vision to help me understand something, that's some good philosophy. If I'm about to step off that stone, hey, get back on that rock. That's good religion. You see what I'm saying? So those are just metaphors to help people understand the real world and how to maneuver through all this buffoonery. Because I am the author of my own story, and who I am is happy to write a beautiful story, whether it be beginning, ending, or the never-ending story with a Treyu.